This famous voice is the king of nature documentaries. I'm Ashley with WatchMojoUK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 David Attenborough series.
Whiteout conditions take the penguins and the film crew by surprise.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at Sir David Attenborough's best and most revered shows from his decades-long broadcasting career.
This is the story of our changing planet and what we can do to help it thrive.
Number 10. Zoo Quest. The show which kick-started David Attenborough's story, Zoo Quest, was created by the BBC, and most of the episodes still exist today in the Beebs archives.
It's important to grab his tail as soon as you grab his head, otherwise he'll wrap his great coils round you and give you a very nasty squeeze.
It saw employees of the London Zoo, plus David, travel around the world seeking animals to capture and bring back to British soil. Clearly, the pursuit of animals in this way is no longer viewed all that positively, for good reason, but at the time, the show was hugely popular, and it proved groundbreaking in terms of how the natural world was shown on television.
I hadn't reckoned on him being so big, and to our dismay, we saw that he could reach this hanging bait.
In many ways, it wasn't only Attenborough's career that came out of Zoo Quest, but the concept of nature documentaries in general.
But I couldn't let him have the tin, in case he might cut himself on the sharp edges.
Number 9. The Life of Birds. Attenborough has been a major part of several documentary series that take a deep dive into one popular topic.
This being the breeding season, that he'll display to almost anything, including me.
The Life of Birds was but one installment of Attenborough's life series, and originally aired in 1998. The following year, it took home a Peabody Award because of its combination of spectacular imagery and impeccable science.
And that bird may have come from as far as 30 or 40 yards away, wandering across the forest floor.
The series was especially praised for its focus on authentic sound. The creators didn't overdub any of the bird calls heard in the show, meaning the sound and visuals match up in a way that's entirely true to life.
And certainly hasn't seen me before, but look how trusting it is.
Number 8. Africa. Released in 2013, Africa explored the entire fascinating continent, charting it via all of the incredible wildlife that call it home.
Only one hatchling in 1,000 will survive to adulthood. But if she does, she may live for 80 years.
A mini-series which took 4 years to create, it boasts 6 episodes as well as 6 mini-episodes which take a closer look at how a specific scene was filmed, a feature synonymous with many of Attenborough's shows. One of the most effective and controversial moments captured a young elephant's death by dehydration, a tragedy that, because of their policy to be observers of nature only, David and the crew were not able to prevent.
They're so engrossed in fighting, they've pushed her off.
Number 7. The Life of Mammals. After Life of Birds, we of course needed to learn about another major section of the animal kingdom, the mammals.
Boo! This extraordinary creature is half blind, half deaf, and this is just about as fast as it can move.
This early 2000s series follows a similar format to Attenborough's other live programs, with every episode focusing on a different group of, you guessed it, mammals.
Instinctively, this tiny living particle climbs upwards against the pull of gravity and towards the smell of the pouch.
Though David was in his 70s when the series was shot, he travelled for filming just like he had in his younger years, freely entering into often dangerous situations to get the best content. When talking about the experience afterwards, he said he'd rather do that than sit at home.
I can see its tail just under my boat here. And it's coming up, There!
Number 6. The Private Life of Plants. Most of Attenborough's best-known works primarily focus on animals, but not all of them. This 1995 series looks at the often underappreciated world of plants.
From such apparitions as these come spores, the fungal equivalent of seeds.
It's perhaps testament to David's presenting skills that he managed to front a show wherein viewers literally watched plants grow and turn it into first-class entertainment. True, there's not quite the exhilaration as gained from watching a lion chase down a zebra, but this series is stacked with information, ideally for any budding botanist.
This is Venus's flytrap. It shapes its traps from the ends of its leaves.
Even Attenborough reportedly queried how a show could be made out of characters rooted in the ground. But The Private Life of Plants uses time-lapse videography, a cutting-edge technique in the 90s, so that we see entire life cycles of countless plants in seemingly no time at all.
The lid opens to expose the plant's lethal pond.
Number 5. Life. While US viewers might more closely associate this show with Oprah Winfrey, it was Attenborough who wrote it and originally narrated it.
Among birds, displays, songs and rituals can reach extraordinary levels of complexity and beauty.
The premise of Life is based on Charles Darwin's theories of evolution, and the series was actually initially released as part of Darwin's season on the BBC. Covering flora and fauna, it charts how life in general has grown and adapted to the world around it.
The side facing the sun goes dark to absorb the sun's heat, while the other remains light and minimizes the heat escaping from her body.
And it's proudly packed with plenty of TV firsts, including the showing of the so-called Jesus Christ lizard running on water, the capturing of Komodo dragons hunting a water buffalo, and the following of a humpback whale heat run, which was called the biggest battle on Earth.
There are enough males here for a heat run, but are they in the mood?
Number 4. Frozen Planet. By 2011, it may have felt like David had been, seen, and covered pretty much everywhere you could imagine in the natural world. But the frozen planet still manages to feel fresh and exciting.
And without warning, the water suddenly plunges down an open shaft, falling a vertical mile into the heart of the ice sheet.
True, it trod some old ground for Attenborough himself, but as he takes us into the Arctic Circle and to the wilderness of Antarctica, he presents the polar regions with a new perspective.
The breeding season is finally over, and the petrels will soon be heading out to sea to avoid the worst of the winter.
With a firm focus on climate change and the effects of global warming, the 7th episode of the series was actually omitted from the US release at first, because of the warnings it carried. Today, though, Frozen Planet is one of Attenborough's finest achievements, and there's a Frozen Planet 2 in the works as well.
All across the Arctic, millions of summer visitors are beginning to return south.
Number 3. Life on Earth. ZooQuest may have been Attenborough's first major nature documentary, but the one that really made him famous was this, released in 1979.
And it's very, very rare that there is any violence within the group.
Like Life, released 30 years later, Life on Earth used evolution as the basis for telling the story of the world we live in, employing innovative film techniques to bring the natural world to the masses in a way that had really never been done before. It's another series that was overflowing with TV firsts at the time, but it's easily best remembered for one scene in particular, Attenborough's ad-lib encounter with a female gorilla in Rwanda.
Though they may play games, you don't forget that these are the rulers of the forest, and the great silverback is king of the whole group.
Number 2. The Blue Planet. In the very first episode of The Blue Planet, David explains that over 70% of the Earth is covered by water, and that's the premise that this series builds on.
We will see how these two forces interact to control the distribution of life from the coral seas to the polar wastes,
granting us unprecedented insight into our oceans and employing yet more state-of-the-art filming techniques to take us underwater. Some of the most memorable sequences include an opening episode explanation of the importance of phytoplankton, a sequence showing a sperm whale looking for food, and a look at how hammerhead sharks rid themselves of parasites. As had by then become typical of an Attenborough show, the importance of the Blue Planet stretched further than simply our screens too. It also helped raise awareness of ocean pollution and allowed experts to better study extremely rare animals.
This impressive nasal display is used to warn away other males.
Number 1. Planet Earth. If life on Earth was David Attenborough establishing himself as the world's leading nature documentary maker, then Planet Earth was him doing it all over again, but for an all-new generation.
Pools of sulfuric acid are indications that deep underground there are titanic stirrings.
And this show truly was a series for the masses. An award-winning spectacle, it was famously the most expensive nature series that the BBC had ever produced. It took 5 years to shoot, and it even inspired a feature film follow-up piece a year later.
The more extravagant a male is, the more likely he'll be noticed.
With episodes focusing on specific environments, including deserts, mountains, caves, jungles, and seas, it saw Attenborough narrate us through our entire planet, tracing the triumphs of the natural world as well as the tragedies for some truly gripping telly.
Fur seals normally live on krill, but these have now acquired an unexpected taste for blubber-rich penguins.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojoUK and subscribe for more great content.